Okay, so this piece turned out a lot better than I had expected, especially because partway through drawing this today, I actually wanted to just give up for the day and finish it tomorrow, but I'm happy that I stuck it through. I actually wanted to give up at like 5 o'clock, and then I ended up going for like another 3.5 hours to finish this out, and I'm happy I did. So last week, I mentioned that the flow rate might have been the issue. Actually, I think what I said was I think I was using a hard brush last week, and I needed to use a soft brush in order to help smooth out some of those transitions as I'm putting in these values. And I actually think lowering the flow rate solved that issue. And so I was still using a hard brush actually for a lot of this, and just reduced the flow rate. And what it did was it allowed me to have a softer touch, and it was easier to create gradients and add in shadows and highlights and different things when I could just put on like a little bit of color or a little bit of the grayscale color at a time. What was hard about this? Everything. So I was trying to think of what different things can be improved. I think my sketches were okay, but one of the things I could have done was added hash marks to sort of bound the different objects that were in this piece. So I could have said, here's where the bottom of the box is going to go, here's the top of the box and the sides, top and bottom of the cylinder and the sides. And I think that would have helped me to draw objects with better proportions. You can tell in my as I was painting, when I completed the boxes, they did not look right, and I ended up using the warp tool as sort of a cheap fix. I think I also need to treat each object as a full unit as I paint. So for example, when I was creating the big box, I ended up, I went through afterwards and I erased areas where it overlapped with the ball or the cone, and I think it would have made it easier to shade each face of the box, and I could have more easily rearranged items if I wanted to, had I not gone through and erased part of it. So I wasn't really thinking of the box as a box in this scene. I was thinking of it as like this weirdly distorted kind of image, and it made it a little more challenging, I think, to put the whole thing together. There's a lot of technical issues with Photoshop, so I don't understand why certain pixels don't get selected in the layer, even though they appear to be gray in color. If you go, control click on your layer to select all the pixels, it only selects like half of them. That happened a lot, and I don't know why. So I had to do weird things like use like the magic selection tool and select the white background, and then erase like all these weird like little stray pixels that would come off of like the softer brush and stuff like that. So I don't know why that happened, and it was kind of weird. And there was a lot of times where I wanted to, for instance, add the shadows and things, and I would add the shadow, and the black color would affect other layers. I would create a new layer for the shadow, add a shadow, and then my other layers that have the objects, the values of those layers would darken. And so I don't know why, even if it was underneath, even if the layer was underneath the object layer, for example, the shadow layer is underneath the object layer, and they're both getting affected. So I'm assuming those two issues that I just mentioned, the pixel selection and then painting a certain layer and having it affect the value of another, I feel like those are related. I feel like it has to do with the opacity of the pixels or something like that, something I don't understand. So I can improve on my technical understanding of Photoshop. I have a lot of jagged edges in my my painting, and I don't really know. I mean, it's just an artifact of the pixels, like having pixels as your like unit of painting, I guess. And I don't know how to fix them when I can't blend the edge with the adjacent color. So for example, with the cone in this picture, you can see each like individual pixel on the side, and I can't blend that with the background. It's not supposed to be blended with the background. I think that is largely due to me using the pen tool, maybe, and my outline being so precise in that way. But at the same time, I feel like I was able to fix some of those issues with like the small box, like the left side of the small box. Oh, I'm an idiot. That's flat. Let's see.
Did you know that you don't have to go to the post office again?
Pandora.
With stamps.com, you can access all the
Throwing me off my groove.
right from your computer.
That's alright, we can cut that part.
Print you.
Okay. Thanks, Pandora, for that interruption. Okay, so the left side of the small box is flat, so that's a really bad example. I'm trying to actually look in this image, and I feel like maybe the top right of the big box, but that's just... I'm not really sure. It seems like any angle I get these weird jagged edges, so I don't quite know how to fix that. Except for kind of making it smudgier looking, but if you've got a sharp edge, how do you make it look sharp without being pixelated? I'm not really sure. And then one useful trick that I realized today, I don't know if this is really a trick, but it's just how objects interact with the environment. At one point I had the cylinder sitting on top of the big box, but there was no shadow, like small shadow underneath it. And the cylinder looked so weird. It looked so weird. It was like, is it attached to the box? It's clearly not, because they're two different colors, and they don't appear to be attached, but they also don't seem to be separate. It looked really awkward. And one of the things that needed to happen was putting just that very small shadow that runs underneath the object. And it made a huge difference. And so that's something that, like, I could see that it was weird. I was like, okay, I know that looks weird, it's not supposed to look like that, but I didn't know how to fix it. And so it's obvious when you look at the reference photo that there's a small shadow there, but I wouldn't have thought that that was necessarily the problem. So I put it in, and it made a huge difference. So that's something I think for me to keep in mind in the future about how these things kind of work. In fact, I could probably add that even underneath the cone maybe at this point towards the very bottom, but I think it's fine. There's definitely some errors with this picture. If you look at the bottom right side of the small box, there's like this weird white line that's there. It's actually true of the bottom right of the big box, and that just had to do with me not realizing I needed to add those shadows. Trying to add them in, I did kind of an awkward job. But like I said, overall, it turned out better than I thought. It could definitely use some improvements, but I'm happy, and that's my painting of the week. So thanks everybody who stopped by and watched. Hope you liked it, and I will see you all next week. We'll see how we can improve and keep pushing forward. Thanks. Bye.